Hello. Today I'm going to be showing you some troubleshooting tips that I use when I have a problem with a Linux server and I'm just not getting any good feedback on what the problem is. So, just a brief little overview. You obviously want to read your logs. Now, I don't have a very good logging solution in my lab. I want to set that up, but your simple var log messages will do, where they get sent to by default. Now, the two main points I want to say is you want to identify any unhelpful error messages. And then the key thing that I've learned is if you're Googling a problem and you see no results about it, the odds are the specific error message you're trying to Google is not the exact problem. Otherwise, the result searches would return with hits because other people have had this problem before. That is just masking over what the real problem is. And the quicker you can identify that, the quicker you can solve whatever problem you have. So I ran into one of those where I got an error message and it was just not helpful at all, because as you'll see at the end result, the problem is completely different from what you originally think it is. And that's kind of the case a lot of the times. And obviously you're going to get a feel for some error messages as you get them again and again, but this one kind of took me by surprise because I get it sometimes and it's almost never the error message it's saying. So I'm going to log into one of my virtual machines. Oh, that is one I can. I meant to log into the proxy. Okay, so I got this SSH message. Channel 0 open failed, administratively prohibited, open failed, SSH exchange, blah blah blah. Connection closed by remote host. So if you're seeing this, and then when you go in verbose here, which you should always do when troubleshooting SSH connections, that should be the first thing you do, you still get knocked down to the same problem. And you see administratively prohibited. So right away I'm thinking, is the firewall blocking this? I know it's not blocking this. I configured it. So you kind of get a little bit confused. What do? You always hit to Google. Always go to Google. So just kind of summarize the error. Administratively prohibited. Open failed. Connection closed by remote host. As we go in here, basically, we'll go through this, and you'll see nothing really good. You'll see the above error message refers to your server rejecting your SSH's client request to an open side channel. And right away I'm reading this, I'm going, no. I've got my private public key set up the same way that I have with everything else. Nothing's being rejected here. So at this point, I'm going to determine that this is not a good error message. And this is huge because most people, you might just get stuck here and say, I don't know what to do. And oftentimes you don't know what to do, but you got to keep digging. So I break it down. You just have to break it down and see where you're at. So I'm trying to connect to this server, which I first have to Bastion. So we're going to go to my SSH config. So I say, okay, my proxy Nginx server, I first get to it by VHKVM01, this host right here. So let's just troubleshoot from there, because if I can't connect from this host, well, obviously I won't be able to connect from mine. So let's go to my Bastion host and see what the problem is here. Same thing, I'm going to log into proxy Nginx01. Could not resolve hostname proxy Nginx01. Well, that is clearly a problem. If I can't resolve the hostname, well then obviously I can't SSH to it by hostname. So we go into my resolve conf file and let's see, okay, well the problem's likely DNS, as it always is. That should, another troubleshooting tip. Let's put that in there. Not always, just keep that in mind. That really should be a first. Always make sure your host names resolve. Now, my DNS server is 122.5. Because of my KVM networking, some of them have 122.1, which is kind of adding to my original confusion. I'm like, where should they really be resolving to? But 122.5 is the DNS server that is authoritative. So, why can't I resolve? Well, I would log into it. So we're in my DNS server now. I know it's dynamic, so I'm going to go in here and look at the zone file, and, well, sure enough, there's no record in there. Well, why is there no record in there? That's kind of annoying. Let me, knowing that I have dynamic DNS, let's view the logs and see why exactly there's no record in here. So I'm going to log into my DHCP server. Yeah, I have a huge problem with tabs. I have to go out every hour and close them all the time. So now we're in my DHCP server, and we have dynamic DNS going. So I'm going to tail my log messages here. And as I do that, I'm going to console in to the proxy server. Now we're going to restart the network, and we're going to view the DHCP packet logs that fly by and see what's going on. Actually see what the heck is going on here. Okay, so my network is restarting, and then I get this DHCP request packet, DHCP packet, boom, unable to add forward map from proxy nginx, refused. Refused? Why would this be refused? So basically, the next step I did was I went and Googled that, and then they're saying, hey, you got problems with your config file. And I'm like, I don't have problems with my config file. My dynamic DNS has been working. So this message is actually turns out to be helpful, but not because there's any configs. The next step I said is, okay, well, what's going on with my DNS server? So we originally went from, I had my client laptop, SSH air. I then went into the virtualization host, that it was the Bastion host, basically. And then the error was, hey, we can't resolve this host name. Then I went to DHCP, and I started to view the DHCP packets fly by, and it's saying, hey, you've got this refused. All right, well, now I'm getting led to DNS. So I have those logs set up right here. So this name.run, and as I tail this, the problem will become immediately aware. Hey, this zone is frozen. You need to thaw it before it can get its dynamic DNS updated again. As I was troubleshooting at some point, I froze the zone and I didn't thaw it. Well, that is not clear from the original message that we got to when I tried to connect. So our original message says that, hey, this is administratively prohibited, which would make you think, hey, there's some firewall problem we have here. And the end result is your DNS zone is frozen and can't get its dynamic DNS updated. I'm not trying to have you fix this error. I'm trying to have you see how misleading this is and how outside the box you need to think. And your first troubleshooting steps should really be, okay, after I've pinged the server, what's next? DNS and DHCP almost always. Can I resolve the host name? You always got to go back to your core network services and make sure they're working. So I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to thaw the database. Do I need to specify the zone? I'm pretty sure I do. Thaw says enable update to all dynamic zones and reload them. I'm going to assume that was good enough because it gave me the option to thaw all zones. Look at the logs here. Unchanged zone file may transfer. So now we're going to go back to this, restart the network. Added new forward map, added reverse map. So I now have the new IP and dynamic DNS. I'm going to go to my DNS server. And there's the journal update, so that's good to go. So when I go back to my client laptop right here and I SSH, cross my fingers, I should be able to get in, and there I am. So that was just one of many problems you always run into. Think outside the box. If we go back to my notes here, I want to reiterate, if your result isn't on Google on the front page results and it looks like almost there's no information on the error you're getting, well, it's probably a very bad error message and not where the real problem lies. Always think about DNS as well. So that'll be it. Thank you for watching.